Welcome to Space Matrix. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon for more updates. Without warning, the Alaska Highway, lifeline to Alaska, was abruptly closed. Concrete barriers and RCMP officers appeared overnight at the Yukon border, halting all traffic. News alerts and social media exploded. The world's longest undefended border now had a wall. Confusion reigned. Was it a protest, a security measure, or something worse? The closure was official, deliberate, and the message from Ottawa was unmistakable. For truckers, families, and tourists, the journey ended in an instant. They were stranded, caught in a crisis beyond their control. The Alaska Highway isn't just a road, it's Alaska's economic lifeline, carrying food, fuel, and medicine to hundreds of thousands. Its closure was a chokehold, isolating a U.S. state and challenging Washington directly. The story spread like wildfire, trending globally as #Alaska blockade and #Northern standoff. News cameras captured the silent standoff, a line of vehicles, a wall of concrete, and a border transformed into a flashpoint. The world watched, waiting for America's response. The air crackled with tension. The quiet frontier had become the world's newest crisis zone. The blockade's human toll was immediate. At the border, truckers with perishable goods faced ruin. Mike, a veteran driver, watched his cargo and his livelihood spoil by the hour. Families, like a young couple moving to Anchorage, were trapped in remote motels, their savings vanishing. Children asked when they could go home. Parents had no answers. In Alaska, panic buying emptied gas stations and grocery shelves. Scarcity loomed. Alaska's reliance on the highway became painfully clear. Some Canadians brought food to stranded Americans, ashamed of their government's actions. Others, online and in cities, supported the move as a stand for sovereignty. The blockade divided Canadians and deepened the rift between neighbors. The crisis was no longer just political, it was personal, and it was everywhere. The border had become a place of fear, frustration, and unexpected acts of kindness. The world saw the cost of a political standoff in human faces. The waiting continued. The White House was briefed before dawn. President Trump saw the blockade as a direct challenge and responded instantly. His social media post was blunt: "Canada has made a big mistake. Alaska will not be isolated. This illegal blockade will end now." The message set the tone. America would act, and fast. Emergency meetings followed. The president ordered support for stranded citizens, economic countermeasures, and a plan to resupply Alaska by air and sea. In a Rose Garden press conference, Trump called the blockade hostile and assured Alaskans help was coming. He demanded the Canadian Prime Minister pick up the phone and resolve the crisis. The world watched as the standoff became a test of leadership. The U.S. government moved with unprecedented speed. The confrontation was now personal: two leaders, two nations, and a border in crisis. The message was clear: America would not back down. The gears of response were in motion. The world held its breath. The next move would define the crisis. Operation Northern Passage launched within hours. The U.S. Air Force mobilized C-17S and C-5S, flying essential supplies to Anchorage. The airlift became a symbol of American resolve, planes landing non-stop, reassuring Alaskans they weren't alone. Simultaneously, cargo ships and ferries from Seattle and Bellingham carried heavy goods and stranded trucks by sea. The Port of Alaska became a 24/7 hub, the inside passage filled with supply vessels. Truckers were offered sea passage for themselves and their rigs, bypassing the blockade entirely. The U.S. spared no expense to support its citizens and nullify the blockade. The Canadian roadblock was being systematically outmaneuvered. America's message: we will not be isolated and we will not be stopped. The world saw a logistical feat unfold in real time. The blockade's impact was blunted. The crisis had entered a new phase. The standoff intensified. As planes flew, a digital war erupted. The White House flooded social media with images of supply drops, grateful Alaskans, and determined truckers. President Trump's posts mocked the blockade. Canada's blockade is failing badly. Sad. The U.S. narrative dominated. America was strong, united, and proactive. Ottawa struggled to respond. Vague statements about security fell flat. Canadian officials were drowned out by viral American messaging. Public opinion in Canada began to shift. Protests erupted, not for the blockade, but against it. The pressure on Canada's Prime Minister now came from both Washington and his own citizens. The information war had real consequences. The blockade, once a show of strength, now looked like a blunder. The world demanded a solution. The digital front was decisive. The crisis was unsustainable. Behind the scenes, frantic diplomacy began. Initial talks were tense. Canada cited security. The U.S. demanded the highway reopen. Economic threats from Washington loomed. The turning point: President Trump called the Canadian Prime Minister directly. The conversation was blunt: end the blockade or face overwhelming consequences. Trump offered a way out: immediate high-level talks on the underlying issues. Facing pressure at home and abroad, the Canadian leader agreed. A secret meeting was set at a Montana airbase. Negotiations were tense but clear. The U.S. demanded the road reopen first. Canada needed a way to save face. The deal: the US would enter talks on trade and security, Canada would declare its operation complete and reopen the highway within 12 hours. Both sides could claim a partial victory. The crisis neared its end. At sunrise on day 3, both governments announced de-escalation. Canada declared its security operation over. The Alaska Highway would reopen immediately. The US announced new high-level talks on trade and security. Barriers came down. Mounties stepped aside. Cheers erupted as the first trucks crossed north. Stranded families resumed their journeys, relief replacing fear. Operation Northern Passage wound down. Alaska's shelves refilled, fuel returned. The crisis left scars, a reminder of how quickly ties can fray. The friendship between nations now felt fragile, requiring care. The road was open, but the path forward was uncertain. Talks began addressing the deeper issues beneath the blockade. The Alaska blockade became a cautionary tale. Even the strongest bonds can be tested. The highway was clear, but trust would take longer to repair.